Hello all, this is Manasa, a student at Rao's IAS Bangalore, and this presentation is about old age care in India, a part of optional geography. To start with, let's see about senior citizens and its definition. Senior citizens, old aged or elderly are all synonyms, and a person is considered to be a senior citizen or old aged person when the person's productive contribution declines. The productive contribution in the sense it can be of economic productivity or physical productivity, and when this declines, that person becomes dependent on someone else, especially economically dependent on someone else. So that age is what is considered to be old age of a person. And in India, according to Senior Citizens Act 2007 and National Policy on Older Persons, which was adopted by Government of India in January 1999, the elderly or senior citizen is a person who is aged 60 and above. So next we can see about a few data related to old age population in India. According to the population census 2011, it is said that the senior citizens population in India was 10.38 crore. According to economic survey, the old age population in India, which was about 8.6% in 2011, is predicted to increase to about 16% by 2041. And also there is another data that tells that there are majority of the old aged population resides in rural areas than the urban areas. So about 71% of elderly are in rural areas and only about 29% are in urban areas. And this graph is about the percentage of elderly in the total population of states and union territories. From this graph, we can observe something, like states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, these states show higher proportion of elderly in the total population. Whereas states like Jharkhand, Bihar and northeastern states and regions like Delhi, they show relatively lower percentage of elderly in the total population. And as far as Kerala is considered, its 60 plus population has overtaken the national average, because from this graph we can observe that the national average is only around 7.4%, but for Kerala it is about 10.5%. And the reason, when we think of reasons why Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Maharashtra have this huge proportion of elderly in their total population, might be because of the general improvement in healthcare facilities and government schemes and initiatives that support the welfare and health of the old aged population in those states, because these states are considered to be high growth states. And in regions like Delhi, the arrival of the migrant working age adults has always kept the population youthful. Many of these young migrants will move out of the city in their old age because they can afford to the high cost of living in the city, and hence this keeps the population of cities young over a long term. And in states like Bihar, because of the high fertility rate, the younger population remains larger in percentage than the older population. And next, this is the graph that talks about the sex ratio of the elderly. So by observing this graph, we can understand that there has always been larger proportion of old aged female than old aged male. And it is seen that there were only about 938 women for every 1000 men in 1971, and this has increased to about 1033 women for every 1000 men in 2011, and this is predicted to increase to 1060 by 2026. And also by 2050, women over 60 years would exceed the number of elderly men, and this would result in a unique characteristic of feminization of the elderly population in India. And this feminization, this process has already started in India and it is still going. And this feminization of elderly population is evidently seen in many provinces of China, and India is slowly getting there. So this next graph is about the elderly population working in India. So according to the population census 2001 and NSSO survey on employment and unemployment, about 40% of old aged persons were working. And from the graph we can observe that in rural areas the proportion is very high, as 66% of elderly rural men are working and about 23% of rural women are working. They are participating in economic activity. But in urban areas we can see that only about 39% of elderly men are working and only about 7% of elderly women are participating in economic activities. And if we think about the reasons why there is this high proportion of elderly persons working in rural areas, it might be because of low income occupation, because it's rural areas or majoritarily based on agriculture or animal husbandry occupations, and also due to the absence or a limited coverage of social security schemes. So yeah, next we can see about the demographic aspects of aging. And population aging is actually, it happens because of the shifts in the age structure of a population, and this is because of the changes in births, deaths and migration. But when we take the effect of mortality, the effect of mortality on age structure, this depends on the age group which experiences that effect. So if a decline in mortality is seen in younger age, this will make the population younger, but a decline in mortality at older age will make the population much older. And next we can see about the demographic transition in India. So in the last half of the century, there has been a very steady change in the fertility and life expectancy rates in India. And the fertility rate, it has began to decline in the mid 1960s, and by 2011, this has reached about very low value of 2.66. And between 1950 and 1975, the life expectancy at birth increased rapidly. And this is because of the reduction in child mortality rate due to the advancements in healthcare, and followed by a steady but slower rate of increase after 1975. This after this year 1975, there has not been a very strong decline in the mortality rate also. I mean, a mortality rate in older ages also. And the life expectancy at birth increased from 49.7 to 63.5 in the years 1970 to 75. And in the years 2002 to 2006, the life expectancy at the age 60 increased from 13.8 to 17.9. Here we have the population pyramids for 3 different years, and the shifts in the fertility and mortality rate and the resulting changes that occurs in the age structure of the population can be observed using these population pyramids. So we have these population pyramids for the years 1950, 2000 and 2050. So this, these pyramids show the proportion of population, each age group, relative to the total population. And this is not of the absolute number of people in each age group. So it is to the total population. So if we see the first population pyramid, in the 1950, the population pyramid has a very broad base, and this shows that there has been high fertility rate during this period, and there is narrow top. This narrow top reflects that there has been small number of elderly in the population. But when you see the population pyramid of 2050, it is clear that the age, here there is a decline in the fertility rate, and that is why there is a shrink in the base. And as people from the earlier group move up the pyramid, they will form the middle and the top portions of the population pyramid, and hence this will expand. So at this stage, the age structure will have relatively higher proportion of elderly in the population. And so next is the old age dependency ratio. And to understand this, let's see what dependency ratio is first. So dependency ratio is an age population ratio of those not in the labor force to those in the labor force. So when we say not in the labor force, it means that people who are dependent part of the population, that is the elderly population, and those who are in the labor force is nothing but working age group. And the reason why we calculate this dependency ratio is to understand how much pressure is exerted on the productive population in the country, and this is normally expressed in percentage. Usually, the dependent part includes the age group under the age of 15 and over the age of 60, and the productive part makes up the population of ages 15 to 60. And generally, this dependency ratio can be classified into child dependency ratio and old age dependency ratio. Now we can see about the old age dependency ratio. So in India, generally, persons who are aged 15 to 59 years are supposed to form the population of working ages. And at the age of 60, people generally retire or withdraw themselves from work. So this 60 and 60 plus is what we consider as the dependent part of the population. And the old age dependency ratio is defined as the number of persons in the age group 60 or more per 100 persons in the age group of 15 to 59 years. So this next graph, this is given by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation in 2001. This graph reveals that the old age dependency ratio has increased from 10.9 percentage in 1961 to 13.1 percentage in 2001. And also from this graph we can see that about 65% of the old population are dependent on someone else for their day-to-day necessities, and less than 20% of the older women and majority of the elderly men are economically independent. Now we can see about a few government initiatives for old age care that's been provided in India, and the first one is Integrated Program for Older Persons, which is commonly known as IPOP, and this scheme is implemented in 1992 by the Government of India, and this aims at providing a good quality of life to the senior citizens, and also for promoting productive and active aging. So this is run by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. A majority of old age government initiatives and schemes are run by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So this scheme provides basic requirements like shelter, food, medical care, and entertainment opportunities. And in this scheme, about 90% of the cost it will be provided by the Government of India, but the remaining it will be provided by the organization or the institution that is concerned for the welfare of the old aged persons. It can be governmental or non-governmental. And so the next initiative by government is Rashtriya Vayoshri Yojana, which is RVY, and this scheme is run by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. This is a central sector scheme, and this is funded from the Senior Citizens Welfare Fund. This fund was notified in the year 2016, and all unclaimed amounts from small saving accounts, PPF and EPF will be transferred to this fund. Under this RVY scheme, aids and assistive living devices, it will be provided to senior citizens who belong only to the BPL category, that is the below poverty line category, and those who suffer from age-related disabilities such as low vision, hearing loss, or loss of teeth, and locomotor disabilities. And the aids and assistive devices like walking sticks and hearing aids, wheelchairs will be provided through this scheme, and this scheme is being implemented by Artificial Limbs Manufacturing Corporation of India, and this is a public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Third scheme is the Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme, and this is handled by the Ministry of Rural Development that runs the National Social Assistance Program. And this scheme aims at providing social assistance to households that has old aged persons, widows, and physically disabled ones. And this is a scheme under this the financial assistance is provided to senior citizens who belong to BPL category. BPL category is the below poverty line category, and the central assistance of rupees 200 per month is provided to persons in this age group of 60 to 79 years, and rupees 500 is provided to the persons who are 80 and above. Next scheme is the Varishta Pension Bima Yojana, and this scheme is run by the Ministry of Finance. And the Varishta Pension Bima Yojana was first launched in 2003, and it was then relaunched in 2014. And this scheme was again simplified, and it was launched as the Pradhan Mantri Vaya Vandana Yojana, which we will see soon. And these both are social security schemes for senior citizens, and it was intended to give an assured minimum pension on a guaranteed minimum return on the subscription amount. So let's see about the Pradhan Mantri Vaya Vandana Yojana, and this was first launched in May 2017, and it is being implemented by the Life Insurance Corporation of India. So under this scheme, on payment of an initial lump amount, if it's the minimum amount is 1,50,000 for a minimum pension of rupees 1,000 per month, and a maximum of rupees 7,50,000 for a maximum pension of 5,000 per month, and the subscribers will get an assured pension based on a guarantee rate of return of 8% per annum, payable like it can be monthly or quarterly or annually. And the center will bear about 75% of the total budget here, and the state government will provide 25% of the budget for activities which will reach up to the district level. So this Vayashrestha Samman is a national award, and it is given to an eminent senior citizen and institutions under various categories for their contribution. And this is given on the day of 1st October, which is the International Day of Older Persons. We can see about legislations related to senior citizens in India, and the first one is the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007. So this was first enacted in December 2007, and this aims at providing maintenance for parents and senior citizens and for their welfare. This is how it works. And Article 41 and Article 46 of the Constitution are for elderly persons, and Section 20 of Hindu Marriage and Adoption Act 1956 makes it obligatory to maintain an aged parent. And under Section 125 of Criminal Procedure Code, the elderly parents can claim maintenance from their children. We can see about homelessness in India. According to the census of India, it defines homeless population as the population that lives in house without roof, without proper roof. So population that resides in a shelter that does not have a proper roof is said to be homeless population. And the exact definition what census of India gives is that the person who do not have a census house is said to be a homeless person. That is, census house is something which has a roof, a proper roofed house is said to be a census house. And according to 2011 census, the homeless population in India is about 1.7 million. But this is said to be a very much underestimated value, because the civil society thinks that the homelessness is about 1% of the urban population in India. That is about 30 lakh people, which is thrice the census figures. And about 41.6% of the homeless people have no access to any sort of health services. And even though there are like 45% of the homeless live within 1 kilometer of a clinic or hospital, they cannot afford to go and have the healthcare services in their region. And they usually lack even the elementary markers of citizenship like ration cards and voters ID. The issues related to homelessness is that they maintain a very nomadic lifestyle. They roam around to find best place for themselves and their family to live, and this is so much difficult for them to do when the weather conditions are very worse, especially during rain and snow. And moreover, women are more prone to abuse, trafficking and harassment, especially if they live on their own or as single mothers. And illegal squatting makes up a majority of the slum population, so many families live in fear of eviction. And the Indian government has implemented initiatives to help this poverty, people who are living in below poverty category. And the most prominent example of this is the Housing for All Act, called as the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And this was declared in 2015, and this aims in building homes for entire population by 2022. And the other programs we can see are like National Program for the Urban Homeless, and in October 2002 this scheme was renamed as a Night Shelter for Urban Shelterless, and this was limited to the construction of just composite night shelters with toilets and baths. And to improve the infrastructure in slums, the Supreme Court mandated a new mission which was called as the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission. And the other step you can see is that public distribution system. It is one of the major services offered by the government to help people living below the poverty line in India. The main issue with homelessness in India is that there are no proper statistics to help these homeless people. Whatever the initiatives or schemes that are provided by the government is not fully, implemented to all the homeless people in India. And so this is how the homelessness is seen in India. And the last slide is the references that I used for this presentation. And for further, reviewing, you can just go into these websites. So thank you.